Let's learn about visibility in Solidity. What is visibility and where we can use it and how we can utilize inside the contract, and when we want to inherit any other contract, then how we can define the visibility. And that's going to be the topic of this video. There are four types of visibility. Number one is public. So any other contract and any other account can call that function or that variable. The second one we have is the private, as the name suggests that it can be only used privately. The third one we have is internal. So it can only work internally and it can inherit the functions. The last one we have is external. So any external accounts or any external contract can call that function or variables. Let's do the general configurations. Solidity. And now we have to create a contract. So we'll call it base. Inside that, so here I'm giving this comment so you guys can keep in mind that what is private functions are doing. So let's try to see the function. So let's create a function and we're going to call it private function. We're going to call it private because this is how you have to define that what type of function you're going to create. It's a private or it's a public or it's external or it's internal. So this is the place where you have to define the function visibility. It's going to be a pure, it will be returned and it will be returning this memory. So we want to return the string. Inside that we're going to simply return this string. So private function called. So this is the very first function we have. Now let's create another function, and in this function we're going to test the function we have created and we're going to call that function. So let's call it public pure return, and we want to simply return this string, and in that we're going to simply call the function. So the function we have created. That's the simple logic. Again, if it sounds complicated, we're going to test this code and I'm going to show you that why it's happening in this way. Now let's talk about the internal function. So here is the command to keep you and remind you that what we are doing here. Let's create a function. We'll call it internal function, internal pure internal pure return, and it's going to return the string memory. In that we're going to simply call this internal function called. So this is the simple internal function we have created. Now let's come down, let's create another function and we're going to call it test internal function. It's going to be a public pure virtual returns, and it's going to return this string we have defined. We're going to call the function. It's going to work. Now let's come here. Now let's create the function. We're going to call it public function, public pure return. It's going to return the memory, and that we're going to simply return this string public function called. So this is the public function. Let's come here. Let's create a function. We call it external function. External. It's going to be pure return. It's going to return the string. So in that we're going to simply return this external function called. That's the simple function we have written. We have provided all the visibility, external, internal, private or internal. Everything is looking fine to me. Now let's come here. We're going to, and this is the one note you have to keep in mind. So when you want to call an external function using a public, in that way it's not going to be compiled, it's going to throw an error. So this is the exception it has. It will always throw an error. We're going to declare a couple of state variables and we can try to access those data. I believe that you guys have already seen that how we are accessing those state variable by assigning a public keyword. And let's come here. We're going to create a string private variable. So it's going to be private, not public. We have to take another variable. It's going to be internal variable. It's going to be another string. It will be say public, and we're going to say public variable. Let's take the state variables. Cannot be extreme. So this is the exception we have, that you can use it private, you can use it internal, you can use it public, but you cannot use as external when you have to define the state variable. So that's the exception we have here. So let's create another contract and we're going to call it child is base. So we are trying to access the parent contract, which is a base contract, and the contract we are creating is a child. So nothing new to all of you. Let me give this command. You cannot access private variables or state variables. So let's create a function. We're going to call it, let's say, test internal function public pure override, and we're going to return this string, and that we're going to simply return this internal function which we have declared in that parent contract. And let's close this one and let's come here. So that looks pretty fine to me. So this is the entire contract we have written for both this base contract and the child contract. And now we're going to test this out, that which function we can easily able to access. So few things you have to keep in mind, that private function, private variables are not accessible in the child contract. So let's test this out. So this is our entire Solidity smart contract we have written. Inside the base contract, we have all these functions we have created. So private, public, internal, public, and this we have public, external, and we have couple of state variable with different visibility, and this is the child contract in that we are trying to inherit the parent contract. So let's try to deploy it. If we come here, here you can see we have these two contracts. So first we have to deploy the first one. If we click on this deploy, if we come here, you can see we have all these functions. And if you notice one thing here, that the first function we have is this private. So this one is not displaying, this one is external, this one is public, this one is also a public, and this one is testimonial, and this one is a test private. So okay, so this function is not here because we have assigned the visibility to private, so we cannot have that. This is the private we have, and the visibility is the public. So let's test this one out. So test this one out. So this is the contract we have. Let's click on this, and that's the return we can get. You can see this is the return we can get from here. Now we have this public function. So this is the public function we have. If we call that one, this is the exact information we are getting here. Now we have public variable. So this is the variables we have defined. Now this private one, this is what it is. It's a public. So this is the variables. If we click on that, we can get it. But those function declared as a private, you cannot have the access, or you cannot get the getter functions. So I hope this thing got clear. Now let's come here. Let me close this one, and let's try to deploy the contract child, because this contract inherit the property of the base contract. So let's deploy that one. Our transaction when successful, if we open that, and these are the function we are getting. So if we look at the child contract, and that we have these functions, but here we have a lot of functions because we are inheriting the base contract, and because of that we have access to this data. So this is the contract we have, test internal. So test internal, this is the function. If we call it, you can see you can easily able to get the information, and this function we have here, internal function, and this is coming from here, internal function, where it is, and this is the function, and from here we are getting the message. So hope this makes sense to all of you. You guys can understand that how everything's work, how the inheritance work, and how you can easily able to access different data in different contract and assign different visibility. So hope this visibility concept got clear to all of you. If you have still any doubt, in any confusion, do leave in the comment section. I'll try to help you in that. With the time being, so hope everything is got clear to all of you guys. If you have still in doubt, any confusion, do leave in the comment section. I'll try to help you in that. With that, let's move for the next video.